Welcome to another episode of Fight the Burnout. Today we have a special guest. The Chief of Police has joined us, which is amazing to have because, we were just talking about this before we started recording. Cory Darling and I about how the troops at the bottom consistently, as much as I hear all the time, is the guys at the top don't understand us. They don't get us. So today we have that privilege to talk to one of the guys at the very top. Cory, thanks for being here. I know we've got a lot to talk about today. I was reading through what you wrote to me about your policing career. We mentioned this before. You started policing when I was one. Not to bring age into anything, but it just shows the experience that you have. You've been policing since 1988. As I like to do, I'll let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, where you police, and that, and then we'll kind of go from there and talk about burnout and how we can help prevent burnout in society as well as in the troops.
Yeah, no, hey, thanks a lot, Chris. I really appreciate that. Really appreciate you making me feel old as well. Holy cow. Yeah, so 34 years in policing, and it's been a tremendous ride. It's been a fantastic ride. And I want to say thank you for what you're doing here, because we're actually talking about some pretty serious issues. And there's a lot of law enforcement agencies that just don't want to talk about this. They want to push it off in a corner and think it doesn't exist, and it really does, right? So 34 years in law enforcement. Started out in patrol, like most people do. I'm pushing a patrol car, I'm in uniform, answering calls for service, the domestics, the assaults, the rapes, the burglaries. But then you're also answering the barking dogs, the trees growing over my fence. Hey, can you help me get my kid out of bed to go to school? All that shit is what you deal with on a daily basis. Spent 16 years on the SWAT team. Started out as a grunt driving vehicles, fetching equipment, and I really wanted to work my way onto the entry team. So, and for us, the entry team, that's the team that makes the initial assault, right? We breach the door, we go in, we get the bad guy, we secure the residence or the building for the search warrants and the dope teams and things. And that's what was really driving me. That's what I wanted to do. So worked my way onto the entry team, worked my way up the stick to the number one guy, and then took over as the entry team leader, which was fantastic because you get to run and make choices and decisions right on the spot. Later in my career on the SWAT team, I had the opportunity I knew I was going to be able to take over as the SWAT team commander. And there was one position that I really didn't know much about, and that was the sniper position or marksman observer position. So I put in my papers to go to sniper school. I was accepted. I went through, I graduated. I'm not sure exactly how. It kicked my ass. It was a hard school. So I deployed as a sniper for a period of time, and then I took over as the team commander. And for us, SWAT is an ad hoc team, right? It's not a full-time position. So you're running patrol, you're doing SWAT, or you're in investigations doing SWAT. But that was one of my ad hoc positions. Also got to be a firearms instructor, integrated use of force instructor, was a field training officer, and I got to teach SWAT tactics at our basic SWAT school academy. As I progressed in my career, got involved in our investigative unit, was promoted to detective, eventually worked out a detective assignment into a sergeant position, lieutenant, and then my final assignment before I left my initial agency was captain. And we have 3 divisions in our agency. We have the patrol division, investigative division, and then professional standards training division. I got to work all 3 of those, and my final assignment was in professional standards. And that's when I got to work on putting a wellness program together for our agency. We did a pretty good job. We got recognized as the #1 wellness agency in the nation. So that was a good credit to us. But my real passion, I really wanted to have my own department and be a chief. And so in 2018, I left the agency that I spent 28 years with and ventured out. And I'm a chief. I've been a chief for almost 4 years now. And it's been a fantastic ride.
That's awesome. And where are you chief again?
So I'm a chief in Sun River. and I did the majority of my work with the City of Bend Police Department, which is right in the center of Oregon.
Yeah, yeah, right smack in the middle of it. No, that's awesome. So you've had obviously a lot of experience. You've had what a lot of the guys called the good old days of policing.
Right. Yeah, no kidding.
And we've seen over the last few years, especially, police have had it, really, been really scrutinized a lot. I think in the last, probably in my eyes, the last 5-6 years, it's been real bad on policing. Tell me a little bit about your experience with, times, I'm sure you've had multiple times, but times where you felt like, you burned out, and tell us also what you describe, what you used to describe burnout as for yourself.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I would say the first 15 years of my career, it was awesome. It was just fantastic. I couldn't believe that they were paying me to do the job. I love my job. I spent a lot of time doing it. I spent 5 years working investigations. I spent the majority of that time working narcotics, and I loved it. There were days where we would be out working 24, 36 hours straight, putting cases together, following informants. It was just a perfect time. But then, you get to see the underside of society, right? You get to see all of the death, all of the trauma, all of the child abuse. It's just, doesn't matter who you are, it's going to impact you at some point in time, and I've been looking at, we hire really good people in our profession, and they're well vetted, physically fit. They have good, strong morals. They've gone through psychological testing. We know they're good when they start, but what happens in their career when they start getting into that burnout phase? And I went through it too. Like I said, 15 years into my career, and I started to show some symptoms of being on the job. And like I said, I was working nonstop. The job was the most important thing. That's a red flag right there, And on my off-duty time, I was chasing adrenaline, and I didn't see it at the time, but motorcycles, sport bikes, rock climbing, snowboarding. I got into triathlons, ultra marathons. It was just, I was chasing adrenaline, red flag, but I didn't see it, right? So eventually what happened is I couldn't identify it, but everybody around me could identify it. And they're like, this dude's changed. He's pissed off all the time. He's not the same guy. My family recognized it. Just not a guy you'd want to be around. Started drinking a lot, drinking way too much. It eventually led to my divorce, and I had to figure out what do I need to do to get back into the person that I was before. And it actually was an investigation that happened for me, or not for me, but I responded to, and it was a murder suicide. And I had to, after that, I got into counseling. And I looked back over my career, and there were a lot of threshold incidents that I was able to identify that I basically pushed out of my mind and didn't even think about it, right? But going through the mental health treatment and working with my psychologist, I was able to identify those things and work my way through them and get back to a place where I could actually improve my life and be the person that I wanted to be and continue in the profession. And a lot of people don't get that opportunity. They get into a position where they get into trouble, right? Internal affairs investigations, and they lose their job, they lose their marriage, and in those cases, they lose their life. They take their own life, and there's a lot of work to be done.
There's a ton of it, and thanks for sharing all those different things. It takes a real person to, and I've interviewed quite a few officers and their biggest thing is they're like, oh, if I speak up, then and I ask for help, then I'm going to lose my gun, which means I'm going to lose my job.
Right.
or, over here, I'm gonna get stigma of, not being able to get that job promotion, or, these
Right.
different things. Did you encounter any of that yourself?
I did, and it's stupid because the time that I recognized I was a captain in the organization, and I was in charge of our peer support team. I was in charge of our wellness program. I was in charge of all of that. So I knew that there was no consequences for me to say, hey, I need help.
Yeah.
But you know what? It was there. It was in my back of my mind going, I'm going to be judged. People are going to think less of me. The chief's going to fire me, and it's stupid. And if you think about it, if you're in a foot pursuit, you break your leg. You feel the pain, something's wrong. You go to the doctor, they fix it. You're out for a period of time. You come back to work and everything's good, right? Nobody ever says, yeah, I'm not sure you can do the job now because you broke your leg at one point in time.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the same thing with mental health issues or trauma. You got to work your way through it. It's an injury. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And you can get better. And when you come back, most of the time you're stronger because you have tools to deal with it. And nobody ever gave me the tools getting into this career. I didn't learn how to do this until actually I came off the rails, right? So we need to do a better job. We need to change our culture. We need to eliminate the stigma, and we need to make sure that our officers understand that this is a very hard profession, and it will take its toll on you at some point in time. It's interesting. I talk to my younger officers and I ask them, what kind of training do you want? What do you want to do to succeed in this career? And it's always the same. Firearms training, defensive tactics training, emergency vehicle operations. If it's black tactical, it's got Molly, I want it. That's the gear I want. And when I talk to the older officers in my agency, some of my sergeants, they're like, yeah, I need wellness. I need help. How do I become better? I'm tired all the time. I don't want to come to work anymore. What tools can you give me? Right. So you've got the two ends of the spectrum. And if we can give the tools to our young officers coming in to the job and they can maintain that, and the goal is to retire and live a great life after this profession. And that's what we need to do. Right.
No, I love that. And it's one part of my business that I do, along with the podcast, is helping officers, at least here at the moment in New Zealand, to give them tools along those lines. I take them through a process. One, I tell them exactly how the job is going to be. I don't fluff around it. I go, this is what you're going to see and you're going to deal with. And it's the way that it is. And we're changing a lot of it. But some of the key things is, that focus, that change, that, having that life balance is such. I don't think there's ever really a balance. There's not an equal to it. It's a matter of always just swaying back and forth. That pendulum goes back and forth always. But you hit it. You said something earlier on around the chasing the adrenaline. And I wanted to bring that up because I feel, especially as young males, it's always the Molly, the black. If it's black, it's got Molly, and it's called tactical. I refer to it as
tactical.
Tactical. Then I want it. And I was the same way. And I believe that it can be quite destructive because you're not thinking about, as you said, your sergeants are like, I want wellness. Well, if we can be well and we can actually look after ourselves, then we can actually become that even better SWAT officer. We can become that have the Molly and actually be a much better officer. But it all does start before we even join in. And the focus, the taking care of yourself, the creating a purpose or a why, and knowing that, the amount of cops that I talk to that they're like, I want to help people. I was like, okay, cool. We'll go to the local shelter and you can go help a person.
No kidding.
That will get you so far. It'll get you to your first drunken disorderly where somebody tries to smash you, and then you'll be like, or the first dead body or the first advising job. And then after that, it won't get you much past that. So we'll talk about that here shortly. But What are some of the key things that you would, you'd like to see officers learn before they even join, like, in academy, or, as they're coming through? What were some of the key things that you think would be key to, policing and having that longevity, so you don't have that divorce, you don't have that, that losing yourself, you're not adrenaline junkie, just searching for that thrill. It's fun, but if we're always searching for the thrill, it doesn't last very long.
Yeah. I don't know if we're ever going to cure that,
No.
just because most of the people getting into the profession, they're that type A personality. They want to go out there, they want to kick ass, they want to take names, they want to do the job, right? That's why I got into the job. You want to drive fast and you want to hook people up.
Yeah, anybody who says they don't get into the job because of that is lying.
Exactly, right? But what we look at it, or what I look at it from a holistic approach, right? You have to look at the physical aspects of the job. Sleep is huge. If you don't get enough sleep, you're going to go downhill fast. And the majority of the officers out there, they don't get enough sleep. They don't know what sleep hygiene is. They don't know what proper sleep looks like or how to get that. So you really need to do some education around sleep. Diet and nutrition is important. We eat like shit, man. We do. We're out there on patrol and we're just grabbing food and just, the sports drinks and some of these super high octane caffeinated drinks, they're not good for you.
And
but
also
we drink the crap
McDonald's
out of
is the only thing that's open at 2 a.m.
Right. Exercise is extremely important. And, I'm not talking about just going into a gym and hammering on the weights, right? I'm talking about functional fitness, doing exercise that's going to improve your ability to do your job. And that's one of the things we looked at with our wellness program, is we looked at where are the injuries that our officers are sustaining. And a lot of them are knee injuries, back injuries, shoulder injuries, hip injuries, right? So we looked to the physical therapist to say, hey, what can we do to improve the health and wellness of our officers? And we gave them all the stats and all the injuries that we were having. And they came back and they said, you need two things. You need to have flexibility and you need to build strength. And so that's when we introduced yoga to our department. And I thought that wasn't going to go well. Cops and yoga, are you kidding me? It ain't going to happen. But it did. We started out small with a pilot program and it grew from there. And our officers loved it. They're like, shit, I can touch my toes. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And then one of the things
anymore.
Yeah, right. And we did this, right at the end of yoga, we would do like a body scan. And our officers loved that because it put them in a great mindset. So when they came out of yoga, put on the uniform and went out to do the job, they were in a better mindset to interact with the community and the public, right? They felt better about themselves. They were calm. They were more confident. They were able to respond to high-risk calls and handle them better. So yoga was awesome for us. And then we added functional fitness in there as well. So not only were they getting flexibility, but they were building strength for the job, right? Yeah. So that was a couple of things that we wanted to do. One of the most important things that I would like to explore more in the profession that we really haven't, I mean, it's fairly new for us, is meditation and mindfulness, right? Being present and being able to identify your awareness. What happens when you get overly invested emotionally, right? When can you identify when you're in traffic and you're just getting pissed off at the guy that cut you off, right? You have to be able to take a step back and go, why am I pissed off? Why is this getting to me? And be able to have a better understanding of how you think. You're thinking about your thinking. And some of the studies that I've seen in regards to neuroplasticity is mindfulness and meditation can actually reduce the chances of post-traumatic stress disorder, right? You can reduce the chances that that's going to be problematic for you. So that's something that we're really trying to introduce, and we're pushing it hard. And it's a tough sell for cops. It's a tough sell, but I tried to explain it to them like I do with exercise, right? You got to stick with it. If you do 10 push-ups today, but you don't do 10 push-ups for the rest of the month, you're not going to see any change. You're not going to see an improvement. It's got to be consistent. It doesn't take long, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. But if you do it daily, religiously, you're going to see improvements. And I'm proof,
Yeah. No, I love that, because that's literally what I take people through, whether it be for becoming more productive in their life, which starts with them, or whether it's, the people that want to become police officers. Is a huge part of my stuff is obviously the exercise training for everything that you've said on things. But when it comes to the mindfulness and meditation side of stuff, so many people think you need to sit in the corner and go with meditation. And I'm like, I'm a motorcycle guy. When you said motorcycles for adrenaline, that was one of my cruxes that I used to use. I would seek the thrill of a motorcycle. And so anytime I start to seek the thrill of my motorcycle again, I know there's something not going right in my life. I'm like, okay, well, what is going on that is causing me to seek this thrill again? But I use motorcycle riding as a form of meditation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's your helmet, and the road. And you have to be present. Yes, you're focusing on the road, but you can still go through your thoughts. And so, I'd say this to so many people: meditation can be the drive to work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's the outcome that you create. And then the mindfulness side of things is one of the biggest things, is the outcome that you want from any situation. When we're law enforcement, when we get dispatched to a call, we have an outcome that we're going. We focus and we think about something before we even are there. I remember going to we thought it was we thought it was just a car they were trying to gas themselves. We thought that, we got a call, the car steamed up at the beach, and we're like, as you do when you're an officer, and trigger warning possibly is that, you sit there and you're like, for fuck's sakes, if you're going to do something, just do it properly. Let's just get on with it. And so we put that out there, and, our focus was there, and that was the outcome that we wanted. We got there, and it was a lady that stabbed herself in the chest in her car.
Oh, geez.
And Jesus, so when you think about it, what we put out there, we get. And so with the mindfulness, if we're constantly thinking about, we want the thrill, well, then we'll seek it and we'll find it. Right. But if we want to stay calm and we want this job to last for a long period of time, we need to uncover what we actually want from it. We talked about the thrill and the adrenaline side of stuff. Well, yes, but as we see from, you just talk to a cop who's been a cop for 30 years that hasn't worked on themselves, and you'll quickly go, I don't want to be that cop. When we think about it and we create an outcome that we want, then we can start to focus on it. And that's where the mindful side comes in. Other key things that I talk about all the time with people is one, look after yourself. How often do we as cops, we don't look after ourselves, but we're there for everybody else.
Exactly.
It'd be the number one thing that drops us down. And then also it's the focus and the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? And that kind of leads us into my next question for you, is, why do you do what you do? I know my why is that I want to create less pain for myself and others, to create the best versions of ourselves.
Right.
And I teach people to find that statement, because I recognized after I left quite quickly, if I had that statement, once I found it, I'd still be a cop to this day.
Yeah, right.
Because my whole policing career would have been surrounded around, one, creating less pain for myself. So all the things that I would do would be first to create less pain for myself, and then it'd be okay, everybody else.
No, I love that. That's great.
In the beginning of my policing career, I'd stick with domestics, and I'd talk to the offender, and I'd be like, why are you doing this? Why do we keep coming back?
Right.
To create less pain for him, then his spouse, then everybody that it affects. But then I lost that because I didn't have that statement. What would you say your why statement is, Cory?
Yeah. So that's interesting. I looked at, what's my, what are my principles? What's my passion? What's my purpose type of thing, right? Which kind of fits into your why. And so I do have, it's kind of what I call my ethos.
Yeah.
Right. And it's basically selfless sacrifice, as I strive for excellence in the service of others, right?
Yeah.
And in my pursuit of excellence, I will continue to improve myself so I can have a positive and lasting influence on others.
Yeah.
And that I will not cower to my insecurities and fears. And I think, most cops, they don't recognize fear as much as maybe some other folks do, right? I mean, they put on the uniform, they know what they're going to go out there and do. But if you throw them a curveball and say, hey, look, I'm going to pull you in off of patrol for today, and I want you to go to this community meeting, and I want you to get up in front of 100 people and give a speech, right? And they're like, I can't do that. I'm like, that's no way. No, hold on. I got no, right?
I'll run towards gunfire.
Right?
I'll run towards gunfire, but no, I'm not.
Yeah. Right. So, you have to overcome your fears, whatever fear means to you, right? That's what I meant by that. And I must first take care of myself before I can serve others. Yeah. And then this last one, I stole from somebody. I stole it from Mark Devine. He's a Navy SEAL. And it's, I will strive to live in the present, resolve with the past, and create my ideal future, right? I love that. I couldn't think of anything better. So I stole it from him. So right. That's kind of my ethos, right?
No, I love that. I love that. And, as we talked about, we haven't really talked about it here, but the other thing that I've recognized, and this is where the whole why thing kind of really concreted in, was, when we deal with our past traumas and our past experiences pre-policing, because we all have them, we all had things happen when we were a toddler that our toddler brain still controls us and our interpretations of things. And so once we can release those, then we can actually take ourselves to the next level, and we can police not from that toddler brain, but from our current adult brain. Right. And in turn, this is what I recognize, is that our why actually stems from back there. So like your ethos would stem probably from some experiences when you were a kid that then has concreted things in. I know for myself, I've always wanted to create less pain. And mine stems from my dad going off to chiropractic school, me feeling abandoned, and he would come back on the weekends, but just me as a 4-year-old, that's what I interpreted. And so I had all these different things of judgment and self-sabotage, and all this came from that. My why came from that. So in turn, I would prevent bullying. I would always want to be the person that everybody could depend on. I would give everything that I could. I saw a train crash in LA actually happen, a passenger in a freight train. And that's what ticked me over the line of, I'm going to join the police, because I saw the cops creating the least amount of pain. And I was like, I want to be one of them. And so I started training the next day. 2 weeks later, had my eyes lasered, had LASIK eye surgery to be able to went full on in. But I didn't recognize that statement. So what do you reckon yours comes from, Cory?
Yeah, I think it comes from, I always wanted to help people. And I don't know, I was the youngest of a large family, right? I was the kid that was always taken care of by my older siblings, right? And it may come from the fact that, hey, I want to give back. They took care of me. Now it's my turn to give back, right? So I got into law enforcement to do that. I wanted to serve my community. I want to help other people. And now I'm in a position as a chief where I can really impact change, at least for my agency, right? And if I can expand that, and I can help others be successful in their careers, that's what my purpose is. I want to help others succeed. I want them to be the best version of themselves that they possibly can, and survive this career. Because I have mad respect for anybody that puts a badge on and goes out and does this job day after day, especially in today's climate. I mean, mad respect to anybody that does that. And if I can help them, I can give them any tools. That's what I want to do.
No, I love that. I love that. You can see it. You can see it through everything that you've done through. You talk about your policing career over the last 34 years, and you can see that consistently through there. So if somebody's struggling to find that why, that purpose, what would you say to them?
I would say, educate yourself, right? One of the best ways to do it is find a coach. If somebody out there can be a coach, a mentor to you that can help guide you, that's the way to go. It's putting out a little money up front, but it's going to help you in the long run. Learn, read books, listen to podcasts, educate yourself on everything that drives you. What is your passion? And you might have to sit down and scribble that out. What is it that drives me? What do I love to do? What is it that is my purpose in life? And once you define what that purpose is, you're going to be great at it.
No, I love it. I love it. And I'll just jump on the back of that and promote myself. That's what I do. So I am here to help. If you want help with it, I will help you find your why. It's literally what we do. So Cory, what is it? What are three things that you with your troops that you command in that? What is three things that you request of them or serve to them, give to them in order to make sure that they are the best officers that they can be? What would be the top three things?
So we bring in the best people we can for this profession, right? Yeah. Because ultimately they're serving the public, and we want the best people we can to serve the public. They have to know that is the job that they're doing. Driving fast, shooting guns, and all that comes secondary. You got to be able to serve the people. Once you got the right people in place, you have to give them the training and the mentorship to succeed, right? So training becomes one of the most important things early on in the career, and give them as much training as you can. So when they have the experience, they can apply the training to the experience, and it comes together. So those are two of the things. And then lastly, it's mentorship, right? It's helping them throughout their careers. For me, anyway, it's helping them develop when they're a basic police recruit, all the way up to they promote into their first special assignment or supervisory position, and just helping them progress in their career and keeping them healthy and well, right?
Oh, I love that. In these days and ages, obviously you've seen all this kind of change over 34 years. I know policing was completely different back in the 80s than it is now, especially in the last couple of years with everything that's happened. What are some of the things that you say to people? Because I know getting burned out in law enforcement is so easy at the moment. You have everybody looking at you. You got the bloody telephones everywhere. I remember, when I started, they were like, "Oh, watch out for the telephones." Now it's people literally will nag you and try and get you on camera for something. Sure. What do you say to those patrol officers or the rookies or anybody really, any of the law enforcement out there, or people out there, when it comes to that, on how to keep themselves in a good state so that they don't react to those, what's going on in society at the moment towards?
Yeah. Keeping in mind what you have control over. What do you actually have control over? And a lot of officers that I've seen that really go down a bad road is they think that they have control over everything, right? And they get pissed off when things don't go their way, right? So it's the administration's fault because they're pushing down bullshit policies that are keeping me from doing my job, right? They don't control any of that. So why are they so pissed about it? Just do the job that you have and be in control of yourself and what you're doing, right? Don't pay attention to the news. Don't pay attention to the media. You have no control over that. Don't let that enter your mind, right? Be happy and focus on what is good. Be grateful for the things that you have. I mean, in our society, in our culture, there are so many things to be grateful for. Yeah. And if you think about it in that positive light and keep the negative out of it, that's how you're going to succeed.
I love that. So what do you do, to reinforce to the troops that you do care about them? Because I know that's one of the biggest things, like you just said, it's the bosses, they're pushing things down to me. What do you do for the troops to make sure that they know that you have, I hate to use the words that you have their back, but that you're there and that you're helping them out, that you're not just pushing these things down to them because shit rolls downhill, as a lot of them say.
Yeah. No, seriously, it's all about relationships, communication, and being there for the troops. I see a lot of agencies talking about keeping their troops well, but I see a lot of just check the box bullshit programs that they're putting in place, right? They don't actually care about the troops. If you want to put a wellness program in there, and you're a leader of the organization, you have to be down there with them. Go down there and do yoga, do the mindfulness with them, be out there on the road, go do a ride along with your troops, get out there and see what's going on and see what they're dealing with and make those connections. So, when you do have to push down a policy that may not be popular, at least you are able to connect with the troops and say, hey, I realize what you guys are going through. I see it on the street. I know what it is, but this is the why behind the policy. This is why we're going to have to do what we're doing. So it's just having that communication piece, having that relationship piece with the troops, and truly being there for them and having their back.
I love that, because you're right. You don't see it. You don't see it you don't see it in a lot of things. If you were talking to somebody, because how many troops, how many people do you command in your department there?
Yeah, so when I was with Ben, we had over 100 officers. Here I've got 12.
12, yeah. So what would you say to those guys that are commanding, or what would your advice be to the guys, the chiefs in that? And I'm sure you talk to a lot of them, but the ones that are commanding like big departments, like say like the LAs and the New Yorks and the big stations, that have hundreds of troops, in order to be able to, obviously, what would your recommendations be in that, to be able to actually, get in with the troops and understand what's going on, so you can have that relationship like you talked about?
Yeah, from time to time, you have to get out on the street. And I know it's difficult. And I know that time is very valuable. I mean, they've got all kinds of stuff that they are doing on a daily basis. But what is the number one thing for an agency? And that is the people that are doing the job, right? That's the number one most important thing. And you can get caught up in the meetings and all of that crap. Or you can put your money where your mouth is and say, yeah, I really truly believe in my troops, and I'm going to set aside a certain amount of time every week to get out there and touch some piece of my department on a ground level, right? And it may only take, a half an hour of your time to get down there and sit in a briefing and talk to guys and actually hear what the conversations they are having about the stuff that they're dealing with out on the street. But you got to put forth the effort. You got to put forth the time.
I love it. I love it. I love all the everything that you're saying, because if you feel welcomed, if you feel like you're heard, then you will speak up as such. You will say the things that you need as well. And then you'll also feel like when something does come down that policy that you're like, but you have that relationship there already. No, thanks so much, Cory. Is there anything that before I ask, the last question I have for you is, what would be your top tip to self-happiness?
I'm sorry, repeat that. What was my what?
What would be your top tip to self-happiness? The last question I like to ask people.
Yeah. And I'm going to go back to this meditation piece. Happiness comes from within, right? And I see a lot of cops, especially our younger cops, they come to work and they drive the brand new pickup. They've got the boat, they've got the travel trailer, it's retail therapy, right? They got it all, but they're having to work a ton of overtime to pay for it. And it's always that one more thing, that bigger house that's going to make them happy, right? They're always chasing whatever it is they're chasing. Happiness comes from inside, right? And if you truly can identify your why or your purpose, and you can follow that, that's what's going to make you happy eventually. I mean, that's the end goal, right?
I love it. I love that. Any kind of words from you, Cory? Anything you'd like to add?
No, hey, I just want to thank you again, Chris, for what you're doing. It's extremely important, and we're having the conversation. And the more conversations that we can have along these lines, the more difference we're going to make, right? And it's changing culture in our profession, first responder profession, and that's the ultimate goal, is to change that culture and make it better. If we take care of ourselves and we're well, we can then serve the public and serve others.
No, I love that, Cory. It's so true, and it's what we say all the time. Is we do need to put it into practice. As first responders, I was interviewing somebody not that long ago, and he was saying, we do a good evaluation on every scene and every situation we go into. We need to do good evaluations on ourselves so that we can,
Right.
we can turn up to work and serve the community and our people the best we can. And that goes for civilians as well. This whole topic that we've talked about today isn't just about law enforcement or first responders. Yes, we've talked about a lot, but if you're a civilian, as first responders call them, but you're not, you're normal people, not putting a badge on or not going into those high threat kind of things, and that, you can take a lot away from this. There is a lot of really good little tools in here that if you think about them, you can apply them to yourself. And so take just one thing away from today. And I do want to thank you, Cory, again. It's an honor and a privilege to have you here. I know you're a very busy man as well. I know how it is once you get to the top. I've watched them. It's like you said, sometimes you just have to make things happen. So I appreciate it. And yes, it is a good conversation for us to have because it brings some reality to what it is that we all the police and law enforcement and first responders go through. For those that are listening, remember, you can always reach out to us. Our email is team@createfromwhy.com. And we're happy to help out. We can help you find that why and that purpose that Cory talked about and that we've talked about. We can help you get in touch with Cory should you want. We'll also put his email down in the description below. But remember to look after yourself, because at the end of the day, we only have ourselves to look after so that we can then look after everybody else. And thanks very much again, Cory. I'll say it again. I'll reiterate it because I am honored to have you here. And thanks for listening and viewing, and make sure you like, subscribe, and we shall talk to you guys all soon.